Hello and welcome back to another Shadowverse video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to give you some tips on how to do well in the Take-Two All-Stars 4th Birthday Cup. Now these tips are geared towards newer players who may not know how to build a good Take-Two deck, or maybe those who just can't seem to do well in the cup. So the first thing I want to focus on is the class you should play. Now, I've made a tier list, and this is purely based on my opinion, so it's very objectional. But I've made this list based on my experience and how easy I think a class is to play in Take-Two. So it's not based on win rate. Now, since Take-Two is quite different from the normal games we play in Ranked, it's important to have cards that are good, just by themselves, and not need a lot of combos or cohesions with other cards in the deck. Because, as you can probably understand, the more combos you need, the harder a deck is to play. Kicking us off in Tier 1, we have Sword, Dragon, and Haven. These classes have great cards that can be very strong, and the reason they're top tier is because the good, strong cards don't need a lot of help from the other cards. And even if they do, it's really easy to pull off, unlike some of the other classes. Now, if you're newer to the game or not too sure how to play Take-Two, I would definitely recommend playing one of these three classes. But if you're unlucky and the classes you can choose from don't include these, do not fret. Tier 2 classes can do just as well, they're just a little bit harder to play. So in Tier 2, we have Shadow, Forest, and Blood. Now, in my opinion, Sword is just a slightly better version of Shadow and Forest in Take-Two. Because they all try to do the same thing, right? They want to create board and get tempo. Forest might require a little bit more combos and help from the other cards, and Shadow is just a little more niche. So in terms of easiness to play, I think Sword is definitely the way to go, but if Sword is not one of your options, going with Shadow or Forest is not too detrimental either, and you can definitely still win. Blood, for me, is really a coin flip. Every time I play Blood, I either snowball and win really quickly, or I brick and lose really quickly. Still a decent class, though, I think, since some of the cards do have great effects, but again, they might have a condition, such as, hitting yourself X amount of times, or being in vengeance, etc. So yeah, that brings us to the end of Tier 2. Now lastly, we have Tier 3, Rune and Portal. Now, I'm not saying that you can't win with Rune or Portal. I'm really saying that it's going to be a lot harder compared to the other classes. And the main reason is that these two classes require a lot of help from other cards in your deck. For example, there are two main branches of Rune, Spell Boost or Dirt, right? Now, it's already hard to play either, since they both rely on the other cards in your deck. And if you've ever played Take-Two, you'll understand that it's even harder to deck build and focus on either one of them. So you'll usually get a mix, and it really just messes up your cohesion. Portal is similar. You have two main branches, artifacts or puppets, and again, it's just a lot harder to build a good deck, and even harder to play, since some of the cards may or may not work with each other. So yeah, this is the list based purely on my opinion. Let's just jump right into some tips for Take-Two now. So in Take-Two, there are two main concepts you have to keep in mind when you're deck building. Now these might sound obvious, but if you just focus on these two concepts, your deck cannot go wrong. Number 1, pick the better pair. Okay, duh, obviously, but hear me out. When I say the better pair, I mean the pair that gives more value overall. So if you have two mediocre cards on one side, and then on the other side you have a really good card, and then a next to useless card, you should generally go with the two mediocre cards. The reason being, in Take-Two, every card matters, and you don't really want any dead cards in your deck. Like, you already barely get to pick what cards can go into your deck, so you definitely don't want to pick the ones that are useless. But how do you determine the value of a card? Well, cards that give you more hand size are usually very valuable, especially in this game mode, where resources are much more scarce. And generally, flexible cards will always have great value as well. Cards with Accelerate, Enhance, stuff like that that really allows flexibility are generally really good. Cards that give you free effects are also very good, such as leader effects, free evolution points, evolve for free, etc. I mentioned this earlier, but cards that need help from other cards or have difficult conditions to fulfill are usually not so great when it comes to value. Even if the effect that they get is very OP, right? You would rather have consistent good cards rather than a hard to fulfill overpowered card. Okay, so number 2, watch your curve. Now, this is something that's a little more subtle, and a lot of times people can forget about this, but you really need to make sure that your curve is not too skewed one way or another. So not too many low drops and not too many high drops, because you don't want to be picking a bunch of great cards, right? Super good cards, but they're all endgame, like, oh yeah, Zeus, oh yeah, Israfil, and then having no early game, because then you'd get steamrolled in the early game and lose by turn 6, whatever, right? So typically, you can start worrying about your curve maybe when your deck is around half built. So I'd say maybe 14 or 16 cards. Then you can start, watching out and be like, hey, do I have enough low drops? Do I have enough high drops? Is my curve looking all right? Right. So your deck will be 30 cards, and I would suggest a minimum of 5 2-drops, just so you don't brick too hard early game, right? Just something to keep in mind. Now, the next tip ties in with how to depict the value of a card. So there's sort of the law of diminishing returns when it comes to building a Take 2 deck. And what I mean is you don't want too much of a good thing, right? It's good to have good things, but you don't want too much of them. So for example, let's say there's a card with a super good evolution effect. For example, Matera. I know Matera's not in rotation anymore, but that's just the card that came off the top of my head. Matera is really good with an evolution effect. It's basically free clear, draw a card. But without an evolution effect, it's really just mediocre. It's just an average 4-drop, right? So if you already have a lot of cards in your deck that require an evolution point for it to be good, you might not value this Matera as much, right? Because evolution points are generally very limited, and there might not be enough to go around. So you might want to go with the other pair, unless the other pair is like totally useless, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So the same thing applies to other stuff, right? Like board clear. If you already have a few cards with board clear, you might want to choose the pair that has a hard removal or something like that, right? The point is to just build a consistent, well-rounded deck that's easy for you to play, right? That doesn't rely on too much on the other cards in your deck, because that's just how Take 2 is, and that's how you can easily win your games. Now, I just have one last tip before I end the video. Or actually, I'll do one last tip, and then maybe I'll do a quick demonstration as well on how I deck build, and then we'll end the video. But Take 2 is quite different from a normal ranked game, as you probably already know. And it is totally okay to not spend all your play points, or even pass a turn. Because in Take 2, resources are far more scarce, right? In a normal game, you'd likely want to, spend your play points or not pass a turn, because then you lose so much tempo because everyone's deck is good. But in Take 2, that's generally not the case. Everyone's deck is pretty mediocre. So you want to play to the best of your cards. So if you have a card that has an Evo effect and you're going first, right? Turn 4. Let's say turn 4. You know your opponent has an evolution next turn. You probably want to save that card for your Evo turn. Or, if your card has an enhance effect, you might want to save it for that. Right? So saving your cards and not spending your play points is totally okay in Take 2. And it's so much better than just, throwing everything down and just hoping for the best. So That's another thing you want to keep in mind. Okay, so now let's jump into a quick demonstration on how to deck build in Take-Two All-Stars. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the classes. Alright, perfect. So we don't have any top tier classes, which was kind of what I was hoping for. And I actually love Forestcraft, so I'm going to go with Forest. And then we'll see how to deck build. So, I'm not sure if you guys know a lot of the cards, but, ooh, Elf Queen is really good. Really good evolution effect. Airbound Barrage is actually a really good card as well. I think I have to go with the Elf Queen, though. That evolution board clear is just insane. So yeah, at the beginning, you just want to pick all the good cards. And then when you're about halfway, then you start to look at your curve. Let's see, Grimnir is... Oh, it's not the old... this is the bad Grimnir. Okay. So Lily's pretty good. Miracle of Love is also pretty good. I think I might go with this. Aria's another board clear, which is pretty decent. But yeah, Miracle of Love is more flexible, and I like this combo better. Ooh, okay, Lilac is really good. Silverbolt is a pretty good finisher. But, Pixie Mischief is almost like a hard removal, kind of. And this is another hard removal. So do we want these two? Or do we want a solid 2-drop? And a finisher card. I think we'll go with this, just cause... Yeah, I don't really... I like this pair better. Oh, okay, Roach. So this is the old Roach. We also got Mylolo, which is pretty good, but I don't think we have a lot of low mana spells. So this might not be as useful. And, yeah, I think I go with this, just because it's a little better. Oh, Carbuncle. Okay. Carbuncle is super good. The 2-drops, I mean, this one's probably slightly better. Hornet is a hard removal, because you get the Hornet Warrior. But I think I want to go with Carbuncle, just because the Carbuncle gives a lot of value. On play, you put the Sparkles in, you'll get a lot of evolution points. Ooh, okay, this is an interesting one. So, I really like these two. This one, what is this? Yeah, so this guy will automatically pull you Azudia if you take this combo. Oh, Korwa gives a super good leader effect, though. And Willypuck actually sets you up for fairies to combo, because I do have a few cards that need, yeah, like Miracle of Love or Aria's Whirlwind, Lina. They all need cards to be played. I feel like I am a more combo deck right now, rather than this. And even if I pull Azudia for free... Oh, I mean, I guess I could Azudia and then Silverbolt for a win. But that's really combo reliant. And as I mentioned, you don't want your cards to rely too much on the other cards. So I think going with Korwa and Willypuck is the better pair. Okay, so we have another Korwa. Mallet Monkey is just a Storm card. We actually have quite a bit of Storm. We have Lina. We have... Okay, that's it. But, oh, well, this might have Storm. And this is a lot of face damage. I think... Oh yeah, see, Apostle pulls a spell, right? But we don't have any right now, and we're not guaranteed to have one. So this might not be the way to go. Mammoth is a board clear, and we're pretty okay with board clear. So I think we go with the Korwa and Mallet Monkey, just to make our deck a little more consistent. Okay, so now we are at around halfway. Our curve is actually looking pretty good, as you can see. So we can just go with the better pair for now. A third Korwa. Wow. Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil's a pretty solid card. It has Drain. It gives you draw, or it can give you the Storm card, but usually you go for the draw. Ancient Elf is decent if you have a lot of fairies. So this combo actually works pretty well together. But it doesn't look like I have a lot of board. Although Brambles would be really annoying, I feel like, in Take Two. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with this pair, just because I want to be a little more annoying, and I want the fairies, you know, for Luxglaive, for Arya's Whirlwind, and any other combo card. Okay. Ooh, Latika. So Latika, it's hard to get fairy. Well, I have a few fairy cards, so the first effect might pull off, but getting a tree is very hard. Or not very hard, but like, it's very unlikely in Take Two. Just because if you've ever deck build before, they don't give you a lot of Natura or type-specific cards, so this is probably out of the option. Airbound Barrage is good, but I feel like we just go for the May and the Lila. Yeah, just a lot more aggressive, a lot more low drops, and this is a board buff, which is pretty good. Good thing I picked the fairy cards, because it looks like we're kind of going that route. Okay, now, again, my Lolo, we don't have a spell, or we don't have a lot of easy low drop spells. Actually, I lied, we have Carbuncle. Oh, did we have Carbuncle when we had Apostle? We could have pulled the Sparkle. But anyway, I mean, my Lolo's just, it's okay. It's like a 3/4/4, right? Boom Devil is pretty aggressive, but I feel like I should go for the Lily, just because I have a lot of board right now, and we're going for like board, buff, aggressive. Lily is definitely all of that, and Dryad is really annoying, also gives you 2 fairies. I think I should definitely go for this pair. Now we have Insect Lord and Airbound Barrage. Okay, so very good. Both clear cards, which we don't have a lot of, like just single target pings. I mean, Princess Knight is okay. It's a Pozio card. We don't really need another Whirlwind. Yeah, I think I definitely go with Barrage and Insect Lord. Okay, Wolf. Wolf will pull me Luxglaive. That's useless. So, I kind of want the Brambles though. I mean, Pure Hearted is always good. It's a draw 2. Lila's consistent. Yeah, but if we pull this, it's not very useful, especially since you're spending all of your turn 8 doing that. Yeah, so let's go with the consistency. Ooh, okay, Okami. Wow, Okami's actually, I really want Okami. But Selwyn's Command, okay, this card is kind of garbage. It's a 3 mana, gives you a 2/1 Storm, or Enhance 8. It summons a 2/1 Storm, and then you can also have a 6/6, and then you basically just stun a follower for a turn, or you return it to your opponent's hand. It's not that great, especially since it costs 8 mana. Kokoro is always good. It's a 2/2 draw. It has Union Burst to buff. Sylvan's good. So in this case, I feel like I want to go with the 2s. Although, yeah, Okami would be so good for this deck. But yeah, this Selwyn's Command just really, I don't want. Remember, I was talking about having useless cards, and this card is kind of useless. So yeah, let's go with the 2s. Okay, so now looking at my curve, I have 4 more cards to draft. I have 9 2-drops. It's really good because I'm going really aggressive. So I don't have too many high-end cards. So I might want to look into that, but Let's see. Ooh, Elf Song. An Elf Bard. So another 2-drop. I have a lot of 2-drops. Will of the Forest is a board clear, but I have some board clear here. And I don't really need board clear. May. I don't really need 2 Mays. Yeah, because I don't think I'll have that many cards to go around. I feel like Elf Song is definitely the way to go. Having Elf Bard is just... it's okay. Okay, so the last pick. So Ancient Elf is good. I think I really want to go for these 5-drops though. Because Apostle can pull me... Well, if I don't have Carbuncle, it pulls me Barrage. If I do, it could pull me a Sparkle, which is really useful. And Hornet Soldier is just... yeah. And I feel like I need a little more high-end cards. Don't really need the Fairy Circle. I have enough Fairy Generators. So, here we go. And yeah, there you go. So I built a deck. The curve is really nice, actually. It's slightly skewed towards the early game, but I sort of made it that way because I wanted to be more aggressive. As you can see, build a lot of board, have a lot of board buffs like Lila, Lily, Elf Song, and I'm really hoping to finish them off really aggressively. So yeah, when you build your deck though, it probably won't be as skewed as mine. You'd probably have a more flatter curve. Probably not even 10 2-drops, I'm guessing, unless you want to go aggressive as well. But yeah, that is it. That brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and comment down below. Subscribe to my channel for more Shadowverse content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.